Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my Game Week 10 League 1 review. If you do want to enjoy today's video, please make sure to drop a like on there for me and subscribe to the channel as well. If you are new, can we try and hit 120 likes on today's video? And don't forget to get your thoughts in down in the comment section down below on how your team got on over the last weekend. Now, I do apologise about there being no Game Week 10 League 1 score predictions. Obviously, we've got one out for every game week so far, but it was practically impossible. I was unable to get a match preview out. The Newcastle vlog was a struggle. The Blackpool vlog was also a struggle as well, but my computer is now fixed. I hope. So we should be back to normal now. Let's waste no further time and get straight into it. Let's begin then with one of the Saturday early kickoffs as AFC Wimbledon continued their great start to the League 1 campaign with a 2-1 victory at home to Wycombe Wanderers. Bogle and Stephen turning goal scorer and provider for both of these goals. The opener scored by Omar Bogle, I think the former Sutton United man. A great free kick into the box from Steve Seddon, and Bogle just doing what he does best, getting his head on the end of it, and it's a really good header into the back of the net. The second goal, just after the half an hour mark, a long ball is played by Wimbledon and Bogle just gets the better of Taylor Allen, really. It's really weak defending from the Wycombe man. Bogle then squares it and Seddon with a really nice finish, to be fair, from the outside of his left foot. Wycombe did pull a goal back just before the hour mark through Henderson. Onyedinma going down the right hand side, putting a ball into the box. Henderson was kind of free in the air. It seems to hit his thigh and end up creeping into the top corner. And obviously Wycombe have some late drama where the ball's in the back of the net. The Wycombe player takes the shot on, then the referee blows his whistle because I think there's a Wimbledon man down in the box. I'm not really sure what's gone on there, so somebody who was at the game, please enlighten me what was the situation there and should that goal have stood. But in terms of Wimbledon, they've had a really good start to the season. Again, they've won this match with not particularly loads of quality. You know, all of the shots on target in this game ended in goals, but Wimbledon, they're a strong side at home. They're going to allow the opposition to dominate possession. Didn't really create many clear-cut chances. Miles Hippolyte had a really good opportunity at 0-0, but apart from that, not really much from Wimbledon. It did seem like pretty much second half traffic from Wycombe Wanderers. I mean, Wimbledon didn't even have a shot at home in the second half. They were clearly very happy just to defend with that 2-goal lead, but they've won, and that is all that matters for Wimbledon. They're up to 6th in the table, 3 wins on the balance for them. I, along with many other people, wrote them off at the start of the campaign. I do still think there are a couple of injuries or a couple of suspensions away at the same time from really struggling, and their squad depth isn't quite there for me, but their starting 11 is proving to be very competitive at League 1 level, so fair play to Johnny Jackson. He's got his side up in 6th at this moment in time. 6 wins from their opening 10 matches. I'm delighted that Bradford City managed to score 3 past these because defensively they are very strong. As for Wycombe, they haven't dropped back into the relegation zone. Again, with that late drama, with maybe they could have nicked a point out of this one. It's not been a great start to the season, but we're only 2 games into the Michael Duff era. He won his first match, and I think a bit of patience is required, but it's still only 2 wins in 10 for them. And the other Saturday early kickoff saw Stevenage once again get the better of Leyton Orient. These two have been having a very one-sided back and forth over the last couple of years. I remember back to the 22-23 campaign where Orient won the title. Stevenage, I think, finished 2nd that season, and I'm pretty sure Stevenage did the double over them that campaign, and they always seem to get the better of Leyton Orient. And don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of Richie Wellens, but his post-match interview does certainly come across very salty. Anyway, Orient obviously opened up the scoring on 24 minutes. It's some nice play worked down the right-hand side. The ball eventually is cut back to Aaron Connolly with a nice finish at the front post of Philip Marshall, but their lead would only last 2 minutes as White would put in a pretty decent strike from about 25 yards out, beat Simkin at his near post. I don't think it's the worst piece of goalkeeping in the world from Simkin, but we'll certainly see a lot worse later on in this game. Obviously, we saw 9 minutes into the second half where Stevenage would score from a set piece. Sean Clare just loses Lewis Freestone, and it's a really good header, but again, it's nowhere really near the corner. I think Simkin could potentially do better with that, but it's the third goal which Simkin absolutely has to save. Again, another corner comes into the box, practically again a free header for Piergiani, and it is perfectly in position of Tommy Simkin, and it just goes through him into the back of the net. I thought he was really poor at Walsall last campaign. I was surprised to see him get a move into League 1, never mind to a team like Leyton Orient. Obviously finished in the playoffs last campaign, but it was certainly a day to forget for him. But obviously, I'm pretty sure this is Harvey White, right? This is not somebody, yeah, this is Harvey White. He's had a great start to the season, 2 goals and 3 assists, and pretty much all of them have come in his last 4 matches, so fair play to him. He's had a flying start to this campaign. Obviously, Ballard does pull a goal back for Orient 7 minutes later. Stevenage would just really fail to clear, I think, a short corner, and it's scrambled off the crossbar, and eventually Ballard heads into an empty goal. But again, clearly a very entertaining match. Looking at the stats from the game, it's very unlike Leyton Orient. Yes, they've dominated possession, but only 5 shots at home, only 2 shots on target. Stevenage, again, have come away from the game with less possession, but dominated pretty much every other statistic, and it goes to show possession means very little in football these days. But looking at the league table, Stevenage have had a great start to the season. They win their game in hand. They're top of the league. It's 3 wins in their last 4, still just 1 defeat in their opening 9. They've won 7 of their first 9 matches. They are absolutely flying so far this campaign. As for Orient, they have been poor. Just 1 win in their last 5, back-to-back defeats, just 1 point picked up in their last 3 matches. They've conceded far too many goals this season, 18 conceded, and I'm looking at Tommy Simkin as a big reason for that. Let me know your thoughts down below, us fans, but another great win for Alex Ravel's side. Barnsley FC were the recent victims of Darren Moore's Port Vale as the Valiants came away from this game with a 2-0 victory. The scoring was opened on at 65 minutes, a throw-in play down the line. Devante Cole flicks it on to Brown. He carries it into the penalty area, waits for the keeper to come out, squares it. Then I'm not sure if it's an intentional square or he's tried to go around the keeper, but eventually Jordan Gabriel taps into the back of the net. And then there's a little bit of nerves, but Port Vale are looking the better side. I think Barnsley created very little in this game, and eventually the scoring would be wrapped up by Ryan Crosdale. He gets the better of Luke O'Connell in the midfield, and it's a great strike from about 25 yards out, right into the bottom corner. And I've said for a number of weeks, and I've pretty much said it as soon as he signed for Port Vale, if Crosdale's fit, he has to play. He's one of the, if not the first names on the team sheet for me. He brings something to that midfield that none of the other Port Vale players have. He's so important to the play, and I'm not just saying that because he scored in this game, because he does pop up with a decent amount of goal contributions for the role that he has, but he's so important in terms of leadership and organisation, all that sort of stuff. I do really rate Ryan Crosdale, and I think he had another great game, and this one's topped off by his excellent finish. And obviously we look at the stats from the game. I've also just seen Crosdale only came on 18 minutes before that. Why is Ryan Crosdale not starting? I don't understand. Crosdale's too good to be on the bench. Anyway, Devante Cole obviously returning against his former side. Barnsley look pretty much at full strength here though, and they've been beaten pretty comfortably at home. Not a single shot on target. Yes, they've dominated possession, but no shots on target from the highlights. They didn't really like they created much whatsoever. Port Vale have gone away from home and had 8 shots on target. Fair play to Darren Moore's side. He's completely turned it around over the last couple of matches. Barnsley have been on a little bit of a wobble, 3 defeats in their last 5. Yes, if they win their game in hand, they could go up to 5th, but it's not been a perfect start to the season, especially recently. You know, I know they've had a pretty tough run, but their last 2 matches, losing away at struggling Blackpool side and then losing at home at Port Vale without scoring in either of those 2 games is a little bit concerning. I'm not massively concerned. It's still only 2 games, but it's just not ideal, really, for Barnsley. As for Port Vale, after a really poor start to the season, it is now 3 wins on the bounce for them. They've scored 6 goals in their last 3 matches as well. They've stopped conceding them, really, as well. Just 1 goal conceded in their last 3. They're on a roll at the moment. You wouldn't want to be playing Port Vale at this moment in time, but really poor from Barnsley to be losing at home to a newly promoted side, but a brilliant win for Port Vale and thoroughly deserved as well. On to my team Bradford City then, as we came away from our home clash against Blackpool FC with a 1-0 win. Only our 2nd league clean sheet of the campaign, but it was a pretty poor match considering the standard of games we've seen so far that Bradford City have played in, and also particularly at home, the free-flowing football and stuff, it just wasn't really there, and I feel like the Wednesday match against Newcastle really did take a lot out of us, unfortunately, but we've got over the line. And sometimes, you know, teams who win promotion don't play well and they still win the football matches, and that's certainly a case of what happened in this one. Josh Nerfville scoring the only goal of the game, 3 goals in his last 3 matches, although there has been some controversy over his last 2. This one is definitely his, although Will Swan was trying to creep in there at the back post. He just gets 1v1 up against Coulson, shifts it out of his feet and smashes it low into the bottom corner. Like I say, it wasn't the best watch in all honesty, but we just got the job done. If you look at the highlights, it certainly doesn't feel like there was 25 shots in the game. We've actually had slightly more possession. Blackpool played a 4-4-2, very much low block, trying to counter us, and they got some threatening players, but looked a bit toothless, if that makes sense. They get into some good positions, but then the final ball just wouldn't quite be right, or the shot would be quite tame, and Sam Walker had a few pretty comfortable saves to make in the match. But if you ask the neutral, or some somebody who was at the game, sorry, not a neutral, the complete opposite. If you ask somebody who was at the game, they probably wouldn't tell you there was 25 shots in that match. But it was just a case of job done. Again, we've made a decent amount of rotation. It's another entirely new back three for us. Tom McIntyre coming in for his debut and looked very solid. Max Power, though, did pick up his 5th yellow card, so he'll be banned for Thursday's game against Rotherham. But Blackpool, I don't think looked particularly great, in honesty. Coulson was absolutely awful. In the midfield, they looked a bit weak. This Casey at the back is an absolute unit. I'll give him that. And Imre looks decent at right back, but they get into good areas and then they always seem to pick the wrong decisions at Blackpool, is certainly what I would say about them. And I know they have had a pretty poor start to the season. We remain top of the table, 4 wins from our last 5. Since obviously that defeat against Doncaster, we've just gone on an absolute mission. 7 goals scored, 3 straight wins, only 2 conceded. We're absolutely flying, and we've kept a clean sheet, which is the most important thing, because we've not done that enough times so far this season. As for Blackpool, they remain in the relegation zone, having beaten Barnsley obviously in their last match. You thought, right, this is where they kickstart the season. They came to Vale Parade, were probably the better side, in honesty, in a game where there wasn't really much clear-cut chances, but they've lost again. They're 1 point from safety with a game in hand. I know there was a lot of frustration around Steve Bruce once again, but I think there's positive signs there for Blackpool. I don't know if it's been like that every game, but to go away to Vale Parade and be the better side, I think they deserve a lot of credit for that. But at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is the scoreline, and Bradford City have got that in this one. Another brilliant win, great win. It was a great win for us, and we're top of the table once again. Fantastic. In arguably shock result of the weekend, Plymouth Argyle went away to Burton Albion and picked up a 4-0 victory. Now, maybe you'd make Plymouth favourites for this game, but they've had a pretty inconsistent start to the season. The away side have not been particularly great away from home over the last couple of years, but to come away from this match with a 4-0 victory, they deserve a lot of credit for that. The first goal is opened just after the half-an-hour match. Some great play from Boateng down at the left-hand side. He drills in a low cross, and Laurent Talay is there to poke into the back of the net. A proper striker's instinctive finish, that one. And just before half-time, they do make it through Assini. Maybe question marks of offside from the long throw, but the linesman ruled that one to be a goal. 10 minutes into the second half, Laurent Talay would have his second and Plymouth's third of the game. A great through ball from Ibrahim, to be fair, will miss the next game through suspension, and Talay with just again another proper striker's finish where he's a little bit off balance, but he manages to get the shot off, and it does find the bottom corner. And even Peppel got himself on the score sheet with 9 minutes from time. Again, Mumba does well down the left hand side, ball across, and Peppel taps into the back of the net. A really good performance and a great win for Plymouth, much needed. Even though they've had very little possession in the game, they've dominated again pretty much every other statistic, and it goes to show possession means very little in football. And you even look at the Plymouth lineup, it was great to see Hazard, I'm not 100% sure on the pronunciation, but great to see him back in goal as well, because I do think Ashby Hammond's not had a particularly great start to the season, despite saving a penalty in their last match where obviously they lost to Peterborough, I want to say. But great to see Talay scoring goals. He this season has, is this full season stats? I'm not 100% sure. No, this is just from this game specifically. How do I have a look at Laurent Talay this season in isolation? He has got 3 goals and 1 assist so far this campaign. He got 1 in 4 as well for Port Vale. So 4 goals and 1 assist. He got 22 goal contributions last campaign. He's having a great season so far in green and white. Having a look at the league table then finally for this fixture, Plymouth up to 15th with 3 wins in their last 4 matches. They seem to be on a bit of a roll. The clean sheet as well is very important because they conceded far too many goals so far this season. But Burton, they're in a lot of trouble. I know they've got a game in hand on everybody and 2 games in hand on some teams, but 1 point picked up from your last 5 matches. You're losing a lot of games. You only scored 5 goals all season. That is comfortably the worst in the entire division. They have only conceded 14, which is, not really anywhere near the worst in the entire league. It's actually only 3 more than Bradford City, who are top of the table, but they've only scored 5. They're in trouble for me. Burton fans, let me know down below how are you feeling for the remainder of this campaign. Huddersfield Town scraped past Exeter City with a 1-0 victory. Leo Castledine scoring the only goal of the game, and to be fair, what an absolute beauty it was just before the half-hour mark. Gets 1v1 up against Exeter defender, drops a couple of step-overs, cuts in on that right foot and whips it into the top corner. And to be fair, both teams had some decent chances for the remainder of the match. Joe Taylor missed a pretty good one late late on in the game, but it wasn't enough for either side, and the scoreline did finish as a 1-0 victory to the away side. Looking at the stats from the game, Huddersfield scored with their only shot on target despite having 22 total shots in the match. This game proving where possessions did slightly mean a little bit more, although again some of the other stats are a little bit hit or miss whichever way that you do look at it. But you look at the quality difference between these two sides, to be fair, and it was obviously heavily leaning towards Huddersfield. I think pretty much every Huddersfield player in the starting 11 and maybe even on the bench would probably start for Exeter, but that's a comparison of the budgets really, isn't it? Looking at the league table then, important for Huddersfield to get back to winning ways after having only one win in their last four previously. Going away to Exeter and winning however you do it is still a good win for them, but obviously there's a massive gap between themselves and Bradford City. Despite all the money they've spent, there is still a 5-place gap between the two sides because they're obviously a much smaller club. Moving on to Exeter, 4 straight defeats on the bounce for them, and they now find themselves just 2 points above the drop zone, having played a game more than 2 of the teams in the relegation zone and having played 2 games more than one of the other teams as well. I am slightly concerned about Exeter. Again, they have blanked in this game. They lost against Stevenage, which is not the end of the world, but they lost at home to Vale, where they also didn't score. Lost away at Rotherham, where they also didn't score. There are some pretty favourable fixtures, and that is very concerning, right? So they're still not in the relegation zone at the moment, but 4 defeats on the bounce for them. It's certainly looking pretty concerning for them, in all honesty. Doncaster Rovers lost yet again after their cup final win against Bradford City. It is 3 straight defeats on the bounce for Grant McCann's side, this time with a 1-0 loss away at a team which I'd probably say have struggled so far this season in Luton Town compared to the expectations of them at the start of the campaign. The scoring was opened at 5 minutes before half-time. Corner is not what came into the box. It was pretty much a corner, but it was actually a free kick. It was just a couple of yards in front of the corner flag, whipped in by George Saville, and Cal Naismith pretty much just had a free header into the back of the net. Really poor defending from Doncaster, and just a couple of minutes later, Jamie Sterry would trip up Naki Wells, and the home side would be awarded a penalty. Maybe Sterry couldn't quite see Naki Wells through his Batman mask, potentially. Obviously, Wells then steps up for the penalty. He opens up his body, puts it right in the top corner, and somehow Ian Lawler pulls off one of the best penalty saves that you'll see all season. It's an absolutely outstanding save to him, in honesty, and obviously Lota Tyler was dropped for this game. He was dropped down to the bench after making a number of errors in the last couple of matches. Lawler got his opportunity and I thought looked pretty competent, in all honesty. Looking at the stats from the game then, it seemed pretty even in terms of possession, both sides having a similar amount of shots. Obviously Luton edging the shots on target, big chances and corners, obviously creating more expected goals as well. But it's not the end of the world really for Doncaster. I don't think their season's going to be defined by losing away at Luton, who had been on recently a little bit of a wobble before this game. It was just 1 win in the last 4 for Luton, and obviously it is 3 straight defeats on the bounce for Doncaster now, where they've conceded a decent amount of goals, not really scored that many as well. Obviously after their cup final victory against Bradford City, they obviously won promotion that day, and obviously we got relegated even though we're first and they're now into mid-table. But not great run at this moment in time for Grant McCann's side. They've still got a very good manager. It's still a good squad, and I think they'll be more than fine come the end of the season. It's just a little bit of a wobble for them at the moment. Important though for Luton to be beating the newly promoted sides at home. However you do it, however you get the 3 points, it doesn't matter. You have to beat the newly promoted sides at home, and it's good for them to finally get back at 2 winning ways. If they win their game in hand, they could potentially go back up into the top 6 as well. So it's not all doom and gloom around the Hatters at the moment. Mansfield Town finally got back to winning ways with a 2-1 victory at home to Rotherham United. The visitors opened the scoring on at 7 minutes with Jordan Hugill converting from the penalty spot. To be fair, a pretty well taken penalty, but certainly some question marks over whether it actually was a spot kick or not. The decision is awarded because of a possible handball offence. Now, it's impossible to tell on the highlights angle, but Fraser Blake Tracy seems absolutely adamant that it's hit kind of like this part of his body rather than his arm. Let me know what you think down below, Stags fans, Rotherham fans, and general football fans as well. Do you believe that should have been given as a penalty kick? But either way, Hugill did very well to convert that into the second half. I think a quick throw-in was taken by Mansfield, and Roberts just runs down the left-hand side, opens up his body, and pretty much just passes it into the bottom corner. A very good finish from the former Leeds United man. And then Dom Dwyer, who's been on the pitch for a matter of seconds really, would convert with a really nice header from an Aaron Lewis at free kick. Great cross into the box and a great header, but really poor defending from Rotherham to switch off so late on in the game. And these are the sort of matches where both sides need to be picking up the 3 points really, because I think both of these sides, a lot of people have not many of either of these sides. I don't really know what I'm trying to say here, but these teams need to be beating each other if they want to be higher than one another come the end of the campaign, if that does make sense. Looking at the stats from the game then, it was pretty much total domination from Mansfield, a thoroughly deserved victory. They were better than Rotherham in every single statistic all over the park, and obviously Rotherham have recently and pretty much all season been on a very bad run. It's 4 defeats in their last 5. They're in the relegation zone. It's 6 defeats from their opening 9 games. I'm just praying they don't sack Matt Hamshaw before Thursday. I don't think it'll change much because Rotherham's squad is really poor. I backed them at the start of the season to go down. There's a few people in that video telling me that they were going to comfortably finish in mid-table, but there's just no goals in this side, and defensively you're not particularly great either. I like Powell in the midfield. I think Spence was okay at Barrow, but there's just not enough in this team, in all honesty. I think it's really poor for League One standards, whereas you compare it to the Mansfield team, there is some good League One quality in here. You look at Roberts and Oshalaja and Noyle, McDonnell, you got Roberts and Evans. You know, there's some decent League One players in that Mansfield squad, but there's just not in that Rotherham side, and I really hope they don't sack Hamshaw before Thursday. If they are going to do it, you'd expect them to be doing it today, so hopefully by the time this video is out, they haven't sacked him, because, you know, I'd like to play them with him still in charge, in all honesty. But great for Mansfield to finally get back to winning ways. I think it was 6 or 7 games in all competitions without a win after winning 4 or 5 in all competitions on the bounce, so great win for Mansfield. Important for them to get back on track, and they're still only 5 points off the playoffs. Who knows what could happen, but I predict them to finish 12th at the start of the season, and that's where they currently are, so hopefully they stay there, to be honest. Northampton Town picked up arguably shock result of the weekend as they picked up a brilliant 2-0 victory at home to Bolton Wanderers. Obviously former Bolton player Kevin Nolan is now the manager of Northampton Town, and Cameron McGeehan opened up the scoring on at 70 minutes. A cross came in from the left hand side from former Barrow man Dean Campbell. McGeehan rises highest at the back post, heads it pretty much straight at Teddy Sharman loan. It just goes through him into the back of the net. Really poor goalkeeping from the Chelsea loanee, and I didn't particularly rate him last season from his time with Doncaster Rovers, and yeah, that was really poor goalkeeping from him there. Just a couple of minutes later, the home side would be awarded a penalty, pretty clear foul from, I think it was Kezia Dewberry, who's obviously had a great start to the season, but defensively it's clearly not his thing, and he gave away a pretty stonewall penalty. Hoskins then stepped up. He goes to his left, or the goalkeeper's right. Well saved, to be fair, by Sharman Lowe, but he can only parry it back perfectly into the path of Sam Hoskins on his weaker left foot, who eventually converted on the rebound, and a very good victory for Northampton. It was always going to be interesting to see how they bounced back from their recent defeat, but to do it with a win at home to Bolton, yes, they were the worst side in pretty much every statistic, bar the one that matters, and that is the scoreline. Northampton 2, Bolton 0. Positive signs are still there for Bolton, and let's not start going overboard. You know, this is a process. It's not just going to be a quick fix. Steven Schumacher is a great manager. They're still probably going to need to go again in January, but as long as they're in and around it come then, I'd be confident that Schumacher will still at least get them a top 6 finish this season. I know it can be frustrating, Bolton fans, but I think if there's any manager you're going to back after enduring Ian Evatt for a number of years, you can endure Steven Schumacher for when the positive stuff does eventually come. But a great win for Northampton, who find themselves now just 1 point behind Bolton with a game in hand. It's 4 wins in their last 5 for Northampton after their most recent defeat away at Wycombe, which was a little bit of a surprise considering how poor Wycombe were. They don't normally win with a new manager as well. They've obviously lost their next game, but Northampton have bounced back with a brilliant win at home to Bolton, whose unbeaten run has now come to an end. They've only lost twice all season, have Bolton, to be fair. It's the draws that have really killed them, but going away to Northampton is a pretty poor result by Bolton standards, especially if they want to be finishing in that top 6 or the top 2 come the end of the campaign. The minimum you've got to be getting away at Northampton is a point, and they've lost 2-0. The stats look good. Burstow missed a sitter in the first half, didn't it? Absolute sitter. Kezia Dewberry wasn't his best game, in all honesty, as well, but I think there's still positive signs there for Bolton. But again, you look at the money that's been spent in these two squads, it's not a great result whatsoever, is it, for Steven Schumacher's side. Peterborough United reverted back to type as they were smashed at home 3-0 by Lincoln City. Adam Reach opening the scoring just before the quarter of an hour mark. Always great to see a former Bradford City player doing well for Lincoln City. A brilliant free kick, to be fair, from about 30 yards out, right into the top corner. Absolutely outstanding free kick. Goalkeeper's side as well. I think Alex Bass, the former Bradford man, will be very disappointed with that, but it certainly wasn't his worst blunder of the game. The second goal he scored on the hour mark. Cross comes in from the left-hand side by Adam Reach. Eventually finds Deriqua at the back post. He brings it down and drills it low, hard across the goal. I think it's eventually turned in by Peterborough defender Tom Lees, but the shot was definitely on target, and that will stay as a Deriqua goal. And obviously the scoring is then wrapped up on the 86th minute as a long throw comes into the box from the right-hand side Awful defending from Peterborough. Nobody taking any accountability or responsibility in that penalty area. Nobody wanting to go and head it. Alex Bass is in absolute no man's land, and it's basically just a free header into an empty goal for a Bikwu in the end. It's absolutely dreadful. Schoolboy stuff from Peterborough. Having been on a pretty decent run over the last couple of matches, they reverted back to type and were absolutely awful. No shots on target at home. That is absolutely shocking. You've allowed Lincoln to, again, let you have the ball and be better in a lot of the other statistics. Created more XG, way more shots on target, a couple more yellow cards as well. Peter are not picking up a single booking. They just need to get that nasty streak in them. They stuck with the 3-5-2 for this game. I think Jimmy J Morgan had a couple of decent opportunities and he missed a fair few of them. I know there's still a few Peterborough players who are getting up to speed and all that sort of stuff. They've got a decent-ish starting 11 now for League One level, given the amount of business that they have done on deadline day in the last couple of days of the transfer window, but their squad depth is still not really there for me. And a great win for Lincoln, who have been on a great run so far this season. They're up to third still in the table. It's 3 straight wins on the bounce, just 1 defeat for them so far this campaign. 6 wins from their opening at 10 matches. They've had a great start to the season. I don't think many people would have had Bradford, Stevenage and Lincoln as their top 3 after 10 games. And I know there's a few teams that obviously haven't played because of the international break, but that is still the top 3 after game week number 10. Absolutely outstanding stuff. As for Peterborough, they're still in the relegation zone. They're still only 1 point from safety, but they've only scored the 7 goals so far this season. They've conceded 18, having had back-to-back wins to now lose and lose pretty comfortably at home. I know Lincoln are a decent side, but it'll be interesting to see how Peterborough do react in their next game. So obviously it is only 2 wins from their opening at 10 matches. They have Bolton, is that right? Bolton away in their next fixture. Then it's Stevenage at home. You know, the next 2 that it could be potentially a little bit rough for Peterborough, but every team's got to play every team twice. They need to go and start winning some football matches. Stockport County's inconsistent start to the season continued as they drew 1-1 at home to a team that have struggled so far this season in Reading FC. Kyle Wootton found himself on the score sheet once again on the 22nd minute mark. He's had a pretty positive start to the season. I'm pretty sure at one point, I'm not sure if it's still the case, but he had the most amount of goal contributions in the division or maybe in the EFL. He's got 8 goal contributions so far this season, got 18 last campaign, 15 the season before, 18 the season before that. He's had a really good start to life at League One level for Stockport County, and unfortunately for them, they couldn't quite hold on. Jack Marriott would equalise on the 72nd minute mark. That was quite hard to say. Long ball gets played forward, some great control from Ritchie, and then with the outside of his left foot, Matt Ritchie with a ball across the face of goal, and Jack Marriott just taps it into the back of the net. Again, he's had a pretty good start to life with Reading, obviously joined from Wrexham in the transfer window. He's got 3 goals and an assist in his opening 4 matches. He's always been a man who scored a decent amount of goals at League One level, and I think he will prove to be a very smart addition for Reading in all honesty. That's a good point for the away side, but looking at the stats again, Stockport have been the better side in pretty much every metric apart from possession and just haven't managed to get over the line. Again, you look at the first half, it's total domination from Stockport. The second half, yes, Reading come back into it a bit more as you would expect there, chasing the game, but just not good enough from a Stockport point of view, and they've not won enough football matches so far this season. Just 4 wins from their opening 10, just 1 win in their last 5 matches as well. That is nowhere near good enough. Stockport fans, let me know down below, is it the system, is it the tactics, is it the manager, is it the players? What do you think it must be? Because there's been a lot of money spent on this squad in the transfer window, and it's just not working out well for them so far this campaign. I still look at some of the former Stockport players who've signed for Bradford and think, how good must Stockport's team be if the likes of Ibu Torre can't get in there? Because he's been outstanding so far this campaign. Even somebody like an Anthony Sarcevic, I just don't understand it, honestly. I know they wanted to go younger and all that sort of stuff, but sometimes you need a bit of experience in there, and they're very good players as well. As for Reading, good point considering their recent run. You know, it's 2 wins and a draw and a loss in their last 4. It's not the end of the world. You know, they're slowly progressing, they're slowly getting better, and I think this is a good point away at Stockport in all honesty, but they need to go on a run of wins now because it is still 2 wins and they're opening 9 games for them. Cardiff City bounced back from their defeat at home to Bradford City last week with a 2-0 victory away at Wigan Athletic, and this is a good win really for Wigan. I know they had 10 men for a little bit, but they have been very strong at home so far this campaign. The scoring is opened by Perry and G. Some nice link-up play between him and Ruben Colwill inside the penalty area. Eventually, Ng takes on a shot. It does take a slight deflection, and eventually it deflects past. I am going to assume Sam Tickle was in between the sticks for Wigan. Yes, he was indeed. And then obviously the scoring was double doubled very late on in the match, a pretty stonewall penalty in all honesty. I think it is Fox who eventually drags down. I'm pretty sure it is Yusuf Salic inside the penalty area. I know it is very late on in the game. He obviously gets a red card for that because yes, it's a penalty and it's double jeopardy, but there's no intent for the ball. He's clearly just assaulted him down to the floor, and Salic eventually steps up and converts, sending Tickle the wrong way, finding his, I want to say, second goal of the season. Is that correct? It's his third goal of the season. Yes, he obviously scored against Rotherham as well. But considering how good he was in the Championship last campaign, I don't think he's blown League One away so far this campaign. But it's important for Cardiff to bounce back after their defeat last week. There's still a lot of very talented players in this squad, and I'm sure that come the end of the season, Cardiff will be in a very strong position. Salic actually came on off the bench after 64 minutes. Looking at the league table then, Cardiff remain fourth in the table, their first win in 3 for them, and obviously another clean sheet for them. It goes to show how impressive it was that we managed to score 3 past them last week, and it could have been a lot more for both teams in that game. I think it could have genuinely finished like 7-3 to Bradford City. As for Wigan, they're in mid-table. I think they'll probably finish around there come the end of the campaign. It's 1 win, 2 draws and 2 defeats in their last 5. It's very inconsistent. 3 wins, 3 draws and 4 defeats across the season. 14 scored, 15 conceded. It is very slightly below mid-table at the moment. They need to start picking up some more wins in total, in all honesty. You know, even though you're playing against Cardiff, you've got to be winning them type of games at home if you want to be progressing on and being a playoff challenging side. It's a defeat for Wigan. They're going to be mid-table come the end of the season. They've just turned up and been beaten really by a better side. Cardiff are a good team. There's no shame in it. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there then for today's video. If you have enjoyed, please make sure to drop a like on there for me and subscribe to the channel as well if you are new. Can we try and hit 120 likes as I mentioned at the start of today's video? And don't forget to get your thoughts in down in the comment section down below. How did your team get on over this weekend as Bradford City stay top of the League One table? 10 games played, the Bantams are top, and hopefully Rotherham don't sack Matt Hamshaw before Thursday. Thank you all for watching. The upload schedule will be a little bit weird over the next week given Bradford City are playing on a Thursday, so make sure to keep your eye out for that. But thank you all for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you very soon for another one.